Good evening, everyone. We would like to get started. Don't go all the way to the back. We have lots of seats at the front. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending our third annual MLK event. My name is Ophelia Rowe Allen, and I would like to thank my co-chair, Dr. Alvin Tran, who has been with me in trying to plan the entire week of MLK events. So thank you, Dr. Tran. So today we are here to celebrate our annual MLK celebration. Our theme for this year's celebration is, "This is our hope, celebrating achievement and hope for the future." This year's celebration kicked off with a celebration of Archive of Activism events, community service events, and our first interfaith service. We thank the members of the Charger community for participating and members of the external community for showing solidarity and heightening awareness around social justice. Also, for the first time, we have partnered with high schools within the New Haven County area and also Bridgeport and launched our first MLK essay contest. Today, we have a representative from one of the high schools here who will be recognized. This could not be done without the work of the MLK committee, so I will ask the MLK committee to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Nearly 60 years ago, on August 28, 1963, Dr. King delivered his message, "I Have a Dream" speech, explaining our hope for the future. On our campus, we are also celebrating this academic year the 50th anniversary of the Black Student Union and the 15th anniversary of the Pride organization. At the national level, we also mark the 50th anniversary of Title IX, the landmark that pushed for equal opportunities for women in the classroom and athletics, and the appointment of Dr. Brown Jackson as the first Black woman to the Supreme Court. We acknowledge the ongoing struggles for social justice, and Dr. King warned us about that. He said, "Persecutors of the status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent, this is an invitation for us to consider our commitment to racial justice and accountability to other forms of identity and social power, including class, sexuality, age, religion, ability, and gender. The multiple facets of our identities are not separate. They are intersect, connected, and overlap. Together, they determine our experiences of oppression, inequality, advantage, or privilege. Therefore, the challenges we face should not weigh us down or dissuade us from reimagining a better, more just, and more hope-fulfilled future. As Martin Luther King Jr. also reminded us, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. As a Charger community, we can do the same, step by step. So today, as we celebrate Martin Luther King, let us continue to take steps to continue to promote and drive equity and inclusion. And now I would like to invite Dr. Rick Baker to do the land acknowledgement.
The University of New Haven Land Acknowledgement Statement. The University of New Haven acknowledges the painful history of genocide around the globe for Native, Aboriginal, and Indigenous peoples. We honor the multitude of diverse tribes and nations who were forcibly removed from, and those still connected to a land that was pillaged and stolen under the tyranny of colonialism. We pay homage to the Golden Hill, Pagusset, Mishantucket Pequot, Pawcatuck Eastern Pequot, Scaticoke, and Mohegan peoples who stewarded lands from Norwalk to West Haven and waterways from the Long Island Sound to the Housatonic and Naugatuck rivers. Their ancestral lands enable the University of New Haven community to thrive, learn, grow, engage, and discover. We commit to the legacy of the indigenous peoples by cultivating both the physical and social environments of the University of New Haven community and by being good stewards of the land. Okay. And now I have the honor of acknowledging the cover program. This is the student who designed and you see up on our screen our cover design. And we would like to acknowledge Eosius Teka for the design cover of the program, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Before we proceed in honoring tonight's awardees, we would like to take a moment to celebrate the life of one of our beloved faculty members, Dr. Kento Yasuhara. Dr. Yasuhara joined the university in 2013 as an assistant professor in the psychology program. He was highly regarded by both students and colleagues, and most notably for his leadership of the University Curriculum Committee. An accomplished clinical and forensic psychologist, he was an incredibly gifted teacher and, most importantly, a valued colleague, mentor, and a friend to all who knew him. I know him personally through our combined work to support our university's Asian American and Pacific Islander community, including the students of the Asian American Student Union. We all miss him very dearly and will never forget the impact he has made in our lives. Thank you, Kento. Now please join me in a moment of silence to honor Dr. Yasuhara. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Interim President Dr. Zenger to give the opening remarks.
Well, you've already been welcomed, and so with that, I just want to share how honored I am to be able to speak amongst you on a day like this. And again, thank Dr. Royal and Dr. Tran for the work and the committee that you put into this. And for me, really, it began last Friday at the interfaith service that was exceptional, and I see a number of folks out here that were with us on that day. You know, as I think back to that day, I was inspired for a number of reasons, but most importantly, the imam that we had come speak pointed out that three, if I remember this correctly, three of Dr. King's objectives were: 1, love; 2, activism; and 3, grace. And there's something about when I see his picture, when I think about the message that he delivered throughout his life, it's humbling to even speak of someone of that magnitude. For me, the word grace means so much. And this past week, I've been reflecting on that and what that means in my own life. And I just share that with others. That is, as you listen to our guest speaker, an alum of our institution, Lamont, I'm looking forward to hearing from you with great anticipation, and appreciate your wife coming to support you, and I know how much that means. Thank you. As we reflect on grace and what that meant and what Dr. King's message was around that, I think it adds impetus to what we're here to celebrate and reflect on today. You know, 60 years after I Have a Dream, and by the way, Robin Salters pointed out to me today that Dr. King is the only individual other than the U.S. President to have a holiday in his honor. I think that's pretty special. And on a college campus, I feel as if this has become the holiday that we can all sort of rally around, regardless of faith, creed, background, etc., because it should bring us all together with a common purpose and cause. But 60 years after the I Have a Dream, I shared with the interfaith group on Friday. For me, I look back at the doors that have been opened to so many people because of the sacrifices that Dr. King and so many others made. And if we all reflect today on those doors that have been opened, and then those who walked through those doors, and the doors that have been opened for each and every one of us. So, leaving the really profound comments for our guest speaker, I would close with this. Let's take the butterfly effect, the ripple effect of all of Dr. King's efforts, and let us not forget a comment that was shared with me as I was part of the, at that time, DEI group at the University of Kansas. Now we have DEIAB, very accurately so. But I was told when I joined that group, bear in mind that you're not here just to treat others as you want to be treated, but to treat others as they want to be treated. And I think on a day like this, that sums up a lot of Dr. King's message. Thank you for having me join you, and thank you for being here today. Really look forward to the message.
Majani will now perform Lift Every Voice. Mo left his home in Haiti to be the best entertainer he could possibly be. He is a singer, a songwriter, a dancer, and he wants to help people feel understood, feel that they have someone or songs to tell them everything is possible. He wants to make people move, dance, fly, like they never did. He wants to inspire people to be the best version of themselves. He said the world is already full of people that are discouraging, and he wants to be one of the few that make a difference through music. Mo?
Hi, I'm gonna start. A little nervous, but excited.
for which
star is cast. God of the world hears, God of the silent tear, thou hast brought us far on the way. Thou hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the pathway. Lest our feet stray from the places of God were meant. Lest our heart stray from the God where the world we forget. Deep from the light hand. We stand true to our God, true to our needy. Thank you.
And now we'll have the invocation by our university chaplain, Martin O'Connor.
As we've been told several times this evening already, "This is our hope" is the theme of this year's Martin Luther King celebration. Among the many extraordinary titles that one might give to Dr. King, one that is most fitting is Dr. King was a person of hope. Like the prophets before him, Dr. King was that voice crying out in the desert, daring to proclaim peace in a time of war, freedom in a time of oppression, and understanding in times of conflict. And so it is in his memory, and with the unbending resolve to honor his legacy of hope, that we offer this prayer. God of justice, God of mercy, we give to you thanks for the gifts of life, of love, and the great privilege and the daunting challenge of bearing witness to the example of Dr. Martin Luther King. Help us always to act with character and conviction. Help us always to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us always to speak with clarity, with charity, and with restraint. Give us what you gave to Dr. King in abundance, the soul of a servant leader. Remind each of us that we are the stewards of a public trust. Guide each of us to be the leaders that our people so desperately need and deserve. Help us always to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and treat all persons, no matter their station in life, with the reverence that God's creation deserves. And finally, renew in each of us the strength of your presence and the joy of working to build a community worthy of every human person, so that we may live up to the call of the ancient prophet, that we always act justly, that we love tenderly, and that we walk humbly with our God. And we ask all this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. And so we say as God's people, amen.
At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Alvin Tran, Assistant Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and my co-chair for the MLK Committee. Dr. Tran will now do the introductions for the awards.
Good evening. I now have the honor of recognizing the recipients of this year's MLK Celebration Awards. Tonight, the following awards and recognitions will be extended. The first, the Martin Luther King Jr. Best Essay Contest, the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Award, 4 MLK Jr. Vision Awards, 3 honorable mentions, and the Philip H. and Susan S. Bartels Award for Advocacy, Leadership, and Service. To assist me tonight in handing out these awards, I would like to invite my esteemed colleagues, Shan Zinger and Greg Eichhorn, to the stage. They're also my bodyguards. To announce the first award recipient, please welcome Jason Howell Jr. from the Office of Graduate and International Student Life.
Good evening, everyone. This year, students had the opportunity to write an essay related to the MLK theme, This Is Our Hope, celebrating achievement and hope for the future. This essay contest allowed students to share their thoughts about this vision and how it is shaping our lives today. As a proud alum, it gives me great pleasure to introduce this year's MLK Essay Contest winner, who is a current junior at Colby Cathedral High School, Lania Aquino. Unfortunately, she is not here with us this evening, but I will be accepting the award on her behalf.
To introduce the second award of the evening, please welcome Linda Copney Okiki.
The Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Award presentation. The Martin Luther King Scholarship Award is presented annually to outstanding minority students who have achieved academic success and who embody the values of equality, justice, and nonviolent activism espoused by the late Dr. King. The scholarship was established by the university's Black Student Union and the Day Student Government in 1968 in honor of Dr. King's legacy. The university's Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee has selected Kaylin Villanueva to receive the Martin Luther King Scholarship Award this year, which will be an amount of $1,631. Kaylin, can you please come forward? Okay, she is also not here this evening, so we'll accept the award on her behalf. Thank you.
The University of New Haven Martin Luther King Celebration Committee would like to thank all individuals for nominating their peers and colleagues for the MLK Jr. Vision Awards. The Vision Awards recognize individuals who demonstrate a commitment to the ideals and values of Dr. King. The university tonight will honor 4 recipients of the Vision Awards this year. Honors are awarded to a faculty member, an administrator or staff member, an undergraduate student, and a graduate student. The committee was particularly interested in nominations of people who embody the legacy of Dr. King and can be considered unsung heroes here at the university. This evening, I will be announcing some of the nominators of the recipients to introduce the recipients. From the School of Health Sciences, please welcome Dr. Carl Mingus, who will announce the recipient of the first Vision Award.
Dr. Janice Mendez Fernandez is dedicated to principles embodied by changemakers such as Dr. King, instilling elements of social justice, advocacy, person-centered care, and One Health in her service, research, and teaching. She's a tireless advocate for health equity and reducing disparities in public health, and her research focuses on educational resiliency in the face of natural disasters. A tenure-track faculty member, Janice has held numerous leadership positions in the university, college, and at the department levels. Of particular note, her role as a success mentor, partnership with the Yale Biological and Biomedical Sciences Diversity and Inclusion Collective, coordination of the Transformational Change in Health Speaker Series, inaugural chair of the School of Health Sciences Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Access and Belonging Committee, as well as her community work related to IRIS, or the Integrated Refugee and Immigration Services, are noteworthy in breadth and importance. Perhaps most impressive, her commitment to education and underrepresented minorities culminated in the Stella Simpson Leadership Award from her previous institution, which is all the more impressive given that it was conferred years after her departure from that institution. Please join me in congratulating my friend and colleague, Dr. Mendez Fernandez, on her award and always looking out for the betterment of others.
Hi, everyone. Well, I consider myself undeserving of this honor, for sure. I humbly accept it in recognition of those who have embodied the principles of living justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly in my personal life. I honestly owe my education to my students, past and present, especially those that left their homes in other countries in search of a safer and better future in the United States of America. In all their beautiful humanity, these students taught me to be brave and fight for what is right. But most importantly, they taught me that giving someone a seat at the table means nothing if we don't give them a voice. While standing here, I want to honor Reverend Ernest Rip Patton, who I had the greatest honor of my life to meet, freedom writer and civil advocate who taught me that radical action and kindness can go hand in hand. Finally, I want to honor those that taught me through their words and actions the act of radical hospitality, the act of meeting people exactly where they are, Reverends Brandon Winstead, John Pavlovitz, and Greg Boyle. In his article for the Maroon Tiger at Morehouse College, MLK stated that the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Today, I am reminded and encouraged by the transformative power of education, which can be used as a valuable tool to advance justice in this world. And may I always remain accountable to my community as I continue to grow in knowledge of others. Thank you so much.
The university would not run successfully without the wonderful work of our staff and administrators. To announce the next Vision Award, please welcome the Dean of the Henry C. Lee College of Criminal Justice and Forensic Science, Dr. Mario Gabri.
It is a great honor to be able to introduce to you the person who I nominated for this degree, Dr. David Schroeder. Dr. Schroeder joined us 14 and a half years ago, if my math is correct. He came from a wonderful school in New York, the name we won't mention because it competes with our programs. But he came with not just the PhD from this wonderful program, but he came with about 10 years of experience working with the New York Tolerance Center, working with some pretty interesting trainings, particularly with the New York Police Department and others. And when David came here to be an assistant professor of criminal justice, he very quickly became a leader within the department. He has served in roles including the assistant chair of criminal justice, acting chair of national security twice, and currently my associate dean, and he was my associate dean also prior to his wonderful time during COVID serving as the acting dean of the college. But one of the things that David has always done, and if you've never met David, you know this, he brings a level of intensity and a level of passion to this particular aspect of his life's work, and that is helping us all understand each other in a way that's very unique. He calls it the traits, values, and behavior concept, and it is something that many people at the university have been exposed to because in addition to bringing it in his own classroom experience, he has trained many student groups, athletics, staff in all areas, including our police department, student life, and many other groups around campus. And an idea came into David's mind as we were trying to figure out as a university what to do with this common course that had been on our curriculum for a while that was supposed to be a common experience, and in many ways it was, and it dealt with some very interesting topics. But particularly David said, why don't we reshape that course, and we'll start in the Lee College, which he did, and he called it the Uncommon Course. And the Uncommon Course is very uncommon. You won't find a course like this at many universities, and it deals with these issues, and David will be able to talk a little bit about it when he comes up here. But it was a course that very much like how Dr. Martin Luther King treated these issues. He did not just have events for the sake of having events. He had events and he had marches and he had other kinds of protests and other activities for the purpose of affecting change in the world. And so what David was able to do, and he's been able to bring many faculty members, not only in our college, but also it's a course that has been a model course that has been emulated by the other colleges, the 3 other colleges in the School of Health Sciences as well in many respects, is how do you have this uncommon experience, not only to help the students in the course, but to help our community here at the University of New Haven become that kind of community that we all want to live in, and then send our students out into the world to be able to make that kind of change in the organizations and agencies that they work in. And in our particular area, many of them work in police departments and other kinds of organizations that have power, and we want people to be able to work with that very precious element of their job judiciously and fairly and honestly and honorably. And Dr. Schroeder embodies all of those attributes, and it's a pleasure to be part of having David receive this award. David Schroeder.
There's no way I can live up with that, so I just want to put that up front right now. Wow. First, I would like to actually thank Mario. Dr. Gabri has been sort of the person I've been working with and connected to pretty much since the day I got here. I think within about 6 months I was your assistant chair in CJ, and no matter how crazy or harebrained or out of the box the idea that I brought to him, he always saw the benefit to the students, the benefit to the university, the benefit to the world around us. And Blaze helped me get out of the way all of those obstructions. And he's always been very, very supportive of me and of these efforts. And so I really thank you. Eunice, I also need to say that we need to confer, because guess what quote I chose? Okay, anyway, as Dr. King stated, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal, and I think that it bears repeating twice, so thank you. I think it's perfectly okay that we did that. But that is the goal of true education. This is what MLK said. This is what he wanted us to think about as an educational institution. And I think that we here at UNH, we've always looked upon this idea as the center of what we do, but I think also specifically in the Lee College, this, Marty, this is what good public service is, right? This is what we do. I think it's very, very important. Understanding the character of our students and promoting the decisions and behaviors that accompany exceptional character has always and will always be our mandate. That's who and what we are. It's not, the problem with that is that it's hard. I don't know if you've noticed, but some of this DEIB stuff, it's hard, right? It's difficult. And so we have to keep going. We have to keep trying. We have to be part of that, definite disappointment for indefinite hope, right? I mean, that's I think what's all part of this. In all of our efforts here, and including the Uncommon course, and I thank you, Mario, for that description, we will continue to accept this challenge. And that kind of brings me to the course. There's no way I could have done this without the team. Some of them, unfortunately, couldn't make it tonight, but we have full-time faculty, we have part-time faculty, we have PhD students, and believe it or not, even one UNHPD is involved, one of the sergeants. Without them, without their commitment, without their absolute belief, this would not have happened. And so I'm just incredibly, incredibly grateful to them. When I proposed this class, this idea, and the model that was inherent within it, many of them and others were rightfully critical. It was a new idea, and to many it appeared radical. And I remember thinking, well, that's why it might be something we want to embrace. And the gratefulness that I feel toward this university and toward the college and toward those that have supported me is really based, or I should say is really vindicated on the responses we've got back from the students. The evals for this class and many of the other events that we've done have really shown that we're getting them to think about themselves. We're getting them to think about how they're going to treat other people who are not like them when they've got social power. And that's really what we were after. And so I'm very, very grateful for all of that. I also really want to thank the MLK committee. I know this decision must have been very, very difficult, and I want to thank you for all of your hard work. And I also want to thank everyone else at UNH who is devoted to DEIB. This is going to be a group thing. Awards are great, and I'm very, very honored, extremely honored to be up here. But this is us. This isn't just a few of us. This is all of us, and we have to think and breathe and walk together, right? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tonight we have 2 honorable mentions for faculty and staff. The first individual, Zelda Rowland, Dr. Zelda Rowland. Dr. Rowland is the founding director of the Yale Prison Education Initiative at Dwight Hall, which brings access to Yale classes and other campus programming to incarcerated students in Connecticut. As of 2021, Dr. Rowland also serves as the inaugural director of the University of New Haven's Prison Education Program and its partnership with the Yale Prison Education Initiative, through which incarcerated students can earn degrees in prison and receive support when released from confinement. Congratulations to Dr. Rowland on this honorable mention. Dr. Rowland emailed me and said that she is not able to make it, so we will accept this honorable mention on her behalf. The next honorable mention goes to Dr. Michael Rossi. Dr. Rossi is the Associate Dean for Faculty and Curriculum and previously served as Interim Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. Since 2021, he has served as the Principal Investigator for the Mellon Grant in support of the Prison Education Program Partnership, along with Dr. Zelda Rowland as Co-Principal Investigator. In my past few years working with him, I can also say that he is a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion here at the university. Congratulations, Dr. Rossi. The first Student Vision Award goes to an undergraduate student who was nominated by Selena Chom, an alumna of the university. Selena Chom could not be here tonight, so I will read her remarks. I'm so honored to present this award to Perry Alexander. Perry is currently in her final semester pursuing a bachelor's degree in health sciences. She has taken many roles since the moment she stepped on campus. For 3 years, she participated in the youth and public health conferences and interacted with high school students across the state of Connecticut to teach them about opportunities in the healthcare field. She also serves as one of the university's Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, or JEDI Ambassador. As a leader, Perry's highly empathetic to others who face unfair treatment due to their race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, and disability status. She has made it a priority of hers to advocate for others, not simply by being a bystander. She has decided to take her leadership role a step further and become a co-founder of the new Student Integrated Mentorship Program. This program specifically helps students in the School of Health Sciences adapt to campus life, especially students who come from all over the world. Perry wanted students to feel supported in any way, whether that was with their studies or through their hobbies. As a student herself, Perry wished that a mentorship program existed for her, but is proud of the progress that the program she co-developed has made. While being on campus, she minored in Spanish to better equip herself to communicate with future patients of hers who may not come from the same cultural background. Her lifelong goal is to pursue a career as a certified speech-language pathologist. Perry's time here at UNH is special because while she is a stellar student, she devoted most of her time to enhancing the experiences of other students. I know that her devotion to helping others will not just stop here, and I'm excited about her next journey. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Perry Alexander.
Thank you all so much. This is such an incredible honor. I'd like to thank my loving parents, my brother, my mentors, Dr. Tran and Dr. Mendez, as well as anyone who supported me along the way. Today, we celebrate our past and our future. Today, we show gratitude for those who lost their lives fighting for what we have now. Today, we look within ourselves and ask, what's next? What can we do here and now to make our communities a better and safer space? When do we start to initiate diversity and inclusivity in the classroom? How can we make our dreams of equity and belonging come to fruition? I know Dr. King asked himself and his supporters these questions, and I ask you all in this room. As you look from where we started to where we are now and what lies ahead, ask yourselves, what's next? When will you start, and how will you implement your dreams into reality? I'm sure the answer lies within each and every one of you, and I'm excited to see what is next for you all. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite my esteemed colleague, Dr. Melissa Whitson, to announce the Vision Award to a deserving graduate student.
All right. Hi. I'm delighted to present the MLK Vision Award to Aza Hussein. Aza is in her second year in the Community Psychology Master's Program here at the university and will graduate in May with a concentration in community research and evaluation. She was specifically drawn to the field of community psychology because she's interested in conducting research that promotes mental health and well-being in marginalized communities and examining the economic, political, and ecological structures that causes these health disparities. Before Aza joined the University of New Haven community, she worked as a teacher at a center for Sudanese Americans in Northern Virginia, where she developed workshops on college applications for students and helped immigrant parents advocate for their child's educational needs. During this time, Aza and some of her peers created the organization Moving Forward Sudan. As the director of programs and services, she created a mentoring program for students and led a women's discussion series. These initiatives address the different struggles that young women in the Sudanese American community face. As a graduate student in the University of New Haven's Community Psychology Master's Program, Aza has continued her commitment to use her knowledge and experience to uplift those around her while she expands the scope of those she's able to positively impact. She's completing her second-year internship with the Yale School of Medicine's Anti-Racism Task Force on the implementation and evaluation of DEIB initiatives in the Department of Psychiatry. Last summer, she began volunteering at Sanctuary Kitchen, an organization that uses culinary training programs to provide professional development and employment for immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. She then began volunteering at IRIS, Integrated Refugee and Immigration Services in New Haven, and was quickly hired by the organization to work with refugee adolescents in the Youth Leadership Program. She has been so inspired by these youth that she decided to focus her master's thesis on this population and will be using a participatory action research methodology, photo voice, for her study. Ultimately, her thesis aims to empower the refugee youth to advocate for themselves and their communities through social action and improve their sense of community and self-efficacy. I think it's easy to see why Aza is deserving of this MLK Vision Award, as she has and continues to make major innovative contributions towards improving the lives of others. Please join me in congratulating her.
I'd like to thank the University of New Haven and Dr. Whitson for the opportunity to receive this award. I believe that Dr. King is one of the greatest American and world leaders to have lived, so it's a great honor to be receiving this award named after him. And like Dr. Fernandez, I feel unworthy to receive this award, but thank you. When I think of Dr. King, I think of a loud and eloquent anti-capitalist and anti-war revolutionary during a time when it was unsafe to be those things, especially for a Black man in the South. I think of the importance of questioning and dismantling oppressive structural systems to support and uplift the most oppressed populations. I try to align myself with these ideals while working with refugees and immigrant adolescents as a youth leadership coordinator at IRIS. Young people are an incredibly vulnerable population, and the added barrier of being an immigrant or refugee multiplies the difficulties that many of these teens I work with experience. Through my work, I try to empower them and remind them that they have agency. I also try to inform them of the privileges that we, as children of immigrants and immigrants, are able to access due to the work of Dr. King and other civil rights leaders. Lastly, in alignment with the theme of this year's celebration, in order for us to have a better future, it is imperative that we work with and support marginalized members of our communities and remember Dr. King when he said that there is no time for the luxury of cooling off or the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time. Thank you.
I would also like to announce the recipient of tonight's honorable mention from a student. On behalf of the awards committee, I would like to honor Leo Levine Aquino, an undergraduate student majoring in forensic science. Leo is highly involved on campus and takes any opportunity to educate, advocate, and help others. Leo is on multiple committees and boards that focus on improving different areas on campus, including the Multicultural RSO Board, Dining Committee, and Advocacy Board. Leo strives to enact change not just for one group, but for all. Congratulations, Leo. Next, please join me in welcoming Dr. Rick Baker to announce this year's recipient of the Philip H. and Susan S. Bartels Award.
This is the second year that the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee is giving this award, celebrating advocacy, leadership, and service on campus and in the greater community. We have dedicated this award as the Philip and Susan Bartels Award for Advocacy, Leadership, and Service. We believe this award plays an important role in supporting and advancing the far-reaching work related to diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging that is taking place across campus and within the West Haven and New Haven communities. Philip and Susan Bartels and their family have had a transformational impact on our campus through their long-standing support of many scholarships and initiatives, including the President's Public Service Fellowship. On behalf of the university, I would again like to extend a big thank you to the Bartels family. As always, you have unwavering support to the university and for our students. I personally am deeply honored to present the Philip H. and Susan S. Bartels Award to Linda Copney Okeke. During her nearly 4-decade tenure at the university, Linda has worked behind the scenes and in the forefront of promoting and celebrating diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging on our campus. Linda has worked with the Black Student Union and student chapter of the NAACP as their advisor and has mentored countless student leaders. She has worked with students, faculty, and administrators on the creation and support of the Black and Latino Alumni Weekend, the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship, Sankofa Ball, and Black History Month, advocating for change on campus and in the greater community. She has been a member of the IDEA Council since its current inception in 2011 and participates on multiple committees, including the Martin Luther King Celebration Team. An introvert by nature, Linda may not be the most outspoken voice at the table, but her passion, knowledge, service, and experience run deep. People who take the time to engage her are rewarded with a wealth of insight and inspiration. In my time at the university, she has been a consistent, dedicated, and passionate advocate for the ideals that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King stood for, especially peaceful protests and engaging with allies in social justice initiatives. Please join me in celebrating Linda Copney Okeke as our 2023 Bartels Award winner.
I'm actually truly humbled by those words, Rick. First and foremost, I would like to thank my God. Dr. Martin Luther King was a pastor, and without God, I am not standing before you here today, and I'm not standing here literally, physically, before you. I also thank Philip H. and Susan S. Bartels for establishing the Advocacy, Leadership, and Service Award. I thank Rick Baker for nominating me for this honor, and the Martin Luther King Committee for selecting me. On August 28, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King addressed the crowds at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and delivered the I Have a Dream speech. In that speech, he shared a message of hope, a hope that one day our nation would rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed, which reads, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." He hoped for a nation where every man, woman, boy, and girl would lock arms one with another and live peaceably alongside one another, that they could work together, pray together, and struggle together to transform the discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood standing up for the freedoms of one another, that there would be liberty and justice for all. Today I stand before you in realization that the hope has not been in vain, but rather that while much of Dr. Martin Luther King's dream has been realized through legislation, I do fully understand that there's still much work to be done. I celebrate that in my lifetime, several laws were passed protecting the civil rights of Americans. Laws requiring educational desegregation that enable all of us, individuals of varying religious backgrounds, races, ethnicities, and economic statuses, to work, live, and be educated together, that we could all come together here at the University of New Haven. Laws preventing employment discrimination due to race, color, sex, and religion. Laws ending prohibitions on interracial marriages. Laws preventing racial discrimination in voting practices, providing equal housing opportunities, guaranteeing protections for and prohibiting discrimination against individuals with disabilities, and laws ensuring the rights for same-sex couples to marry. You ask why I reiterate these pieces of legislation in your hearing today. To celebrate achievement, we have to understand where we've been, where we've come from, and to know the history to fully understand the progress. Without knowledge, history repeats itself, sometimes along with its mistakes. 2, we cannot legislate individual attitudes and perceptions. Out of the hopes of our forefathers came a vision for change, not only just change, but lasting transformation. That vision created action, and action created achievement. These civil rights were not gained through silence, but rather through voices lifted up high, sometimes through suffering and sometimes through pain. It is only we as individuals and as a collective people who can ensure the rights of other fellow students on our campus and fellow Americans in our communities by looking out for and being an ally and a voice for those around us. Dr. King once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." The progress that these regulations represent did not come about without the strength of individual and collective voices and actions. To continue on the path of hope and progress for our future here at the University of New Haven and in our greater communities, it is important that we, as individuals, stand up to protect the rights of everyone to have equal opportunity for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let us all together not only celebrate our victories, but also lock arms with one another and push forward to ensure that there's always a hope for the future for everyone. I encourage each of you to be an advocate, to be a leader, and to be that voice for change. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I would like to give another round of applause to all the award recipients of this evening. Now I would like to welcome my co-chair, Dr. Ophelia Rowe Allen, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Tran. And now I have the honor to introduce Lamont Daniels, our keynote speaker for this evening. As Chief of Community Services for the City of Norwalk, Lamont is responsible for departments that directly affects social well-being and health for nearly 90,000 residents, which include Health and Human Services, Fair Rent, Public Library, and Early Childhood and Youth Services. He brings more than 20 years of experience in the human service sector. Prior to his appointment in Norwalk in 2019, Lamont led the Aetna Foundation's $1.5 million Healthiest Cities and Counties Challenge Prize initiative, supporting 50 cities and countries across the country to improve the conditions that affect community health. As a manager for Annie E. Casey Foundation's direct service agency, Casey Family Services in Bridgeport, Lamont oversaw a range of permanency-focused programs for vulnerable children and families in Fairfield and New Haven counties, and also participated in foster care reform initiatives at the state and or national capital. Lamont is most proud of spearheading Casey's Youth Advocacy Leadership Program with former foster youth who testified to effect change in foster care for the care system. Lamont also served in the office of the mayor in Bridgeport under Mayor Bill Finch as Director of Neighborhood Initiatives and advised on critical quality of life issues. Lamont was a recipient of the Fairfield County 40 Under 40, recognized for his extraordinary business leadership, professional commitment, and success in the field of social service, and is also an adjunct professor in Human Services Department for the Connecticut Community College System for over 12 years. Lamont is an ordained elder at the Triumphant Christian Church in Bridgeport, which is also my church, in Connecticut, serving as a pastor of discipleship, supporting discipleship development and ministry acculturation to help individuals become strong members. He remains committed to his community and continues to find time uplifting first-generation men of color, college students in Norwalk, Connecticut, and is a volunteer board member of the non-profit boards. Lamont holds a master's degree in social work from Fordham University and a master's degree in public administration from no other, University of New Haven, and is also a licensed clinical social worker with the State Department of Public Health. With a deep spirit of gratitude and generosity, he said, when not working, Lamont can be found with his wife, Fantisha, and two amazing children telling Alexa to play songs like Michael Jackson and dancing in their home. I want to welcome our keynote speaker for this evening, Lamont Daniels.
I'm gonna come up here like you did. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just hugged her. Hope I didn't mess everything up. I want to put all this down. Is that okay? All right. Can I put it also here too? Is that all right? Thanks. So good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Oh, you got to talk back to me. Yeah. So I want to talk to you tonight. And I was saying to my wife, to Miss Linda and Perry, I said, can I just say whatever they said and I can go home? Because you all said some great things. So I definitely have some prepared remarks. And I am so excited, just like all of you are being here. To Dr. Ro Allen, thank you so much for thinking about me when she reached out to me. I said, is she sure she wants me to come and talk? Because I don't know what I'm going to say, so we're all going to find out together. So a couple of things to Dr. Ro Allen, to Dr. Tran, to the entire 2023 Martin Luther King Celebration Committee, thank you. Dr. Baker for facilitating all the business stuff for me to get here. Thank you for being patient. And to your intern president, Dr. Zinger, so many people to thank. And to the recipients, both students and faculty, thank you so much. And I have to give a quick shout out to my beautiful wife. She's in the front row. Wave your hand. Fantisha and Dr. Tran, this is Mark is my detail with a cane. That cane could become a weapon, so he's joined me tonight. But I've given some thought to tonight about what I wanted to talk about, right, as keynote. And so tonight, let me set the stage that I'm going to ask you to take a journey of what I'm thinking about. You know, you get a call and someone asks you to talk about something, so all these ideas come in your head, and what do I want to talk about? How do I want to talk about it? So I'm inviting you into my mind, and we'll see what comes out. Is that all right? All right, good. So, a couple of things. So, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, so I talk with my hands. That's why I said, can you all give me a lapel? I get all hyped up and energy. And look at my wife, she's like that all the time. She's always like in a 5. I'm always at a 10, 11, and 12. And we have 2 beautiful children. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. And it is true. One night, my daughter was crying. I was like, I was like, honey, why is Corinne's crying? And she goes, Alexa won't listen to me. You know, so it's just amazing of all the things that are going on. So just thank you. So it's good to be here. I'm a proud graduate of the University of New Haven. Where you at? Yeah. I was here back in, I was asking my wife, when did I come here? She goes, look down your LinkedIn page. So 2007 and 2009, I was a student here. And I really mean this, because sometimes, you know, when you say stuff, you're like, oh, you're just saying it. No, I really, really mean it. I actually called my professor, Mitch Goldblatt, who was a former selectman in Orange. I emailed him. I found his email, and he emailed me back, and I said, hey, I want to say thank you, because it is true that when I came here, I had the best experience. I really learned a lot, and I couldn't remember his name, but you all also flew in some, some corporate people, and he came in for wherever he was to teach. It really was an amazing experience, and I really do attribute my time here for those 2 years of where I am today. So I thank you to the University of New Haven. I don't know if there's any MPA students or anyone from the NPA program, but I want to say thank you. It really has been a pivotal moment in my life. And so I'm deeply honored. And I understand you all had a variety of activities this month, so thank you again. I haven't been on campus in a long time, but it's great to be here. So let's get to why we're here. You all, I love your topic. This is our hope. And that's my wife to keep me on time, because I can go. I think you can tell that by now. This is our hope, celebrating achievement and hope for our future. And I think tonight you may get a little both of, my coaching, and I am a pastor. I'm not a pastor of a church, but I serve in the capacity of pastor. So if anything resonates with you, you can get an amen, or you better go ahead. See, that's what we do in my church. We call it the call and response. So if I say something you don't like, you're still supposed to say amen. All right? Because you got to keep it going, keep the energy going. But I want to talk about this, and I was listening to some of the remarks that were said, and so I want to begin here. That for nearly 3 years now, all over the world, people have been suffering from fear, anxiety, and uncertainty caused by 5 letters and 2 numbers. COVID-19. Schools, workplaces, restaurants, theaters, and local shops. At the height of the pandemic, we all remember were shut down. Our normal routines were disrupted by lockdowns and social distancing. And each day the news brought frightening statistics as we all worried about how to stay safe. And the name Dr. Fauci became a household name. What is Dr. Fauci going to say? What is Dr. Fauci going to say? The virus brought a lot of suffering in our country and in the world, a lot of loss, and many problems surrounding mental health and so much more. Over this past semester, I've been asked to speak a lot on campuses on the importance of mental health. In fact, my wife is a clinical social worker at Gateway Community College, and we talk about the plight of students. And so I trust that you all are doing a good job helping our students deal with all this stuff, because a lot is happening. Dr. Rita Walker, she's a professor of psychology at the University of Houston, and she's also one of the leading researchers in the U.S. specializing in the intersection of culture, race, mental health, and suicide. She says this: prior to the pandemic, suicide deaths were increasing dramatically for Black adults in the U.S. The rates have continued to increase during the pandemic and in many other vulnerable groups. But here's what I want you to know. COVID-19 did not affect everyone equally. It exposed the inequities in our country like never before. And most notably, I think I heard the public health people were here or something like that, I can't remember, but most notably in the healthcare system. Let me elevate a few facts that in the state of Michigan, Black people make up 14% of the state's population, but accounted for 41% of the coronavirus deaths. That's big. In Illinois, Black people make up 14% of the population as well, but accounted for 32.5% of deaths caused by the virus. It gets worse, y'all. In Louisiana, Black people only make up 33% of the population, but accounted for more than 70% of the state's coronavirus deaths, with the majority of them living in New Orleans. And right here, our next door neighbor in New York City, Black and Latino people are twice as likely to have died from the virus than our white peers, according to local data by the local government. You know, in the American Journal of Public Health, they report that the pandemic has exacerbated many social and structural conditions that is associated with racial and ethnic inequities. They include lack of access to resources and support services, inequalities in income and poverty, inequalities in education and skills, including intergenerational inequalities, with particular effects on children, including vulnerable children, our families with children, and our young people. You see, these disparities have been exposed front and center yet again in our country. You know, what I have observed is that we can no longer close the curtain anymore. This is the part of America that we can no longer ignore. The part of America where we cannot say, and I've heard some of you talk about it in your remarks, that it's not my issue. The part of America where people who say, if I can pull up my bootstraps, why can't they pull up theirs? But I have a response to that. If they had access and opportunities and was able to buy boots, don't you think they would do it? That's when you can say, amen. See, I read recently poverty have risen. And did you know some data suggests that there has also been another extreme data point, that the wealth of billionaires have increased during COVID? So I posed the question, what is hope? Why is hope necessary? We often use this word to describe something that we would like to happen, right? But are uncertain whether it will actually occur. For example, you know, I hope the economy improves. If you're like me, I don't know if you all broadcasted it to Mayor Rilland, I hope I get a raise, Mayor Rilland. Or to the students, I hope I pass this class. Or I hope the train comes on time. I hope the bus comes on time. And here's the big one that we've all probably have said, I hope it's not COVID. I got a sniffle. I hope it's not COVID. I got a little headache. I hope it's not COVID. Why? Because in my house, I said, I got too much to do. Please don't let this be COVID. Then my wife would go to the kitchen cabinet and get that little orange and white box. Hold your head up. Let me put that thing in your nose and see what the test comes out. But if you're like me, I submit to you that neither of these hopes has any real uncertainty. But what we can accept and recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic raises renewed concerns in our country about inequality and justice. Even right here in our own state, the Constitution state. You see, in my role as Chief of Community Services for the city of Norwalk, I have seen firsthand the COVID-19 pandemic has drawn laser attention to every disparity that those of us many who are on the front lines, I often say, I already knew that. I could have told you people were struggling. This ain't nothing new to us. So as this month closes, I ask you to reflect with me, which is why we're here. What has happened and how far have we come since the assassination of the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th, 1968. In the more than 5 decades since his death, yes, progress has been made. Yes, things have gotten better. Yes, people are doing well. But I argue today we still have work to do. Every year, Martin Luther King Day gives us space to reflect. I heard that in people's remarks. But also to grieve for those who have sacrificed their lives and for those who have gone on before us. And to look today forward with a renewed sense of hope and commitment to keep moving forward. And I believe that this year, this space is especially needed right now. So I think we all can agree that a lot has happened in the past 3 years. And I don't know about you, I'm still trying to understand what happened. As from a clinical perspective, what are those short-term and long-term effects, especially in communities of color, especially in poor communities, disconnected communities, marginalized communities, vulnerable communities? We're talking about now natural disasters are hitting parts of the U.S. that we thought would never happen. Acts of racism are in the news nearly almost every day now. Some states today are making it harder to register and to give people their fundamental right to vote in this country today. And just because I don't fit in someone else's mold, I then become a victim because I don't look like you, I don't talk like you, I don't dress like you. And as people say, and as a society, I'm still trying to make sense of all this stuff. Mass shootings in the schools, grocery store shootings in Buffalo. And we take a moment that I had to write it down in my pen just 4 days ago in Monterey Park, California. Just 4 days ago. 11 people were killed. Not in other countries, in our country, these United States. And if you look back in 2022, I read some alarming data set that there was a major shooting every month of the year right here in our country. You see, I've made a determination to myself that I'm not going to forget the names of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. And I will forever keep their names in my mind because we as a country still have some work to do and we have some ways to go to fight against social injustice and systemic racism. And so the question today is, I challenge us, don't let your hope be in danger. It's troubling because, now you don't know what to believe. There was a time that when you watch the news, they may give an opinions, but you can say, wait, they were pretty objective. But now when you watch the news, I literally watch about 5 news channels cover the same story, and I was just marveled of what they were saying about the same incident. So you don't even know what to believe anymore because what they say may not be the truth. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions to think, because I believe that's why I'm here, to help us think. So what would Dr. Martin Luther King say about all of this? I remember my grandmother saying, it's going to get better. I remember hearing my grandmother say, keep on going, baby. Some of you all know what I'm talking about. I remember hearing my grandmother say, don't back down, hold your head up high, put a smile on your face. You see, our history as a people has always been about hope, and we must keep that hope moving forward. You see, it does matter, and I heard a little bit about it tonight, it does matter what happens at these institutions, including the institutions of higher learning in other places. What happens behind these large doors really matter. These amazing structures where we are fostering the personal growth of students, encouraging students and faculty and researchers to innovate and to create. What are those educational goals to help students develop critical thinking skills and to evaluate arguments and address complex issues? See, to my generation, education was viewed as the great equalizer. But I heard Dr. McPhail said, but this promise of equality cannot be achieved when fundamental injustice exists. Our institutions must become more intentional with their approaches to address social justice issues. And my God, you have to have people who are most impacted in the room at the table with the same power to show up and to speak up without intimidation. That's called representation. She goes on to say that we have a responsibility where social justice disparities are present. Institutions must strive to break down social injustice barriers. And I like what she said. She says, as part of their business models, which may often require navigating in uncharted waters. You see, during Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, I'm always grappling with, what should I be doing? What should I be reflecting on? What should I be thinking? Who should I be talking to? Where should I be going? And I have to tell you, I'm still figuring that out. Here's where it's personal for me. I ask myself, how much have I contributed to standing idly by? We see many injustices right before our own eyes, in our own communities, in our own neighborhoods, in our own workplaces. But I have to ask that hard question. Do you do anything about it? We have all heard of the slogan, if you see something, what? See, you know it. And that happened after the terrorist attack on 9/11. I think that's a legitimate question. If you see something, do you say something? You see, if we're gonna talk about Martin Luther King, we have to walk away today with and say, what am I willing to challenge, not with someone else, but within myself? There are a lot of terms out there now, and yes, we need to create language so when we're talking about something, we have a common understanding, but we cannot get lost in the language. Hate is hate. Racism is racism. Bigotry is bigotry. And discrimination is discrimination. And then ask ourselves, am I willing to take an active role in dismantling systems of oppression that uphold inequality? There's a photo where Martin Luther King stood behind President Johnson when they signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And he's quoted by saying, "The law's passage is a great moment." He later said at an event, "There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right." All right, so in church, we'll say, fasten your seatbelts. The reason why we say that sometimes, because it's like, this may be an ouch, because you're like, oh, no, he didn't. Oh, yes, he did. Because sometimes when you're up here, you know, everyone there always agree with you. So I'm giving you a precursor, fasten your seatbelts, okay? But I have to say what I prepared to say. So I have no problem with having a Martin Luther King Day of service. But see, I have kids now, so as young people say, but let's not get it twisted. Why do I say that? Because I heard a speaker say, yes, we want to help. Yes, we want to go out in our communities. Yes, we want to give back. Yes, we want to volunteer. Yes, we want to do community projects and clean up and do a lot of things. But I need to say it's bigger than that. See, that's an ouch. It's bigger than that. You know, are you willing to, someone says something, are you willing to say, hey, that's not cool? Or are we quiet because we don't want to be known as a troublemaker? I guess you could probably guess, where am I? I'm the troublemaker. Respectfully. But if I see something, I'll say, hey, that's not cool. Hey, that's offensive. You see, that's what I believe is missing today. You know, are you speaking up for your brother or your sister who may not have a voice or have not yet found their voice? Or are you helping them to have a voice? See, King saw equality and human rights for African Americans, for the economically disadvantaged, and for all victims of injustice. So your theme, our theme, my theme is this is our hope, celebrating achievement and hope for the future. So from person to person, hope takes on a different meaning. But I believe the commonality is an expectation that things will get better. Just like my grandmother said. Hope is a desire for something to happen, a wish for things to change for the better, or for a particular dream or aspiration. And I believe that was a big part of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. I really do believe he was talking about hope. Hope pushes us forward even during the toughest of times. I remember so vividly watching the TV during the most violent insurrection on our nation's capital. It was certainly a wake-up call for the nation. You see, we must not only focus on the people that stormed the Capitol, but also, Miss Linda, on the policies that have made what we call the two Americas possible. We must work to undo the laws and practices that preserve, promote, and reinforce inequality in this country. Dr. King and others fought, sacrificed, and some died to protect the human and civil rights of black people, but most certainly for all people. Desmond Tutu reminds us, and he said this, hope is being able to see that there is a light despite all of the darkness. We have seen a lot of darkness. But I say again, but don't let your hope be in danger. So when I think about hope, I like to come from a spiritual context, where it means believing good things will happen with faith in a higher power. And this common idea of hope is very different from that everyday hope. From what the Apostle Peter wrote, he called it a living hope. And that's what I want to suggest to us today. A hope that lives on the inside of you and each and every one of us. We cannot afford to let our hope be in danger after the progress and the many achievements that have been made and the many things that people have paved the way. I know we don't talk about these things like we used to anymore, but it's time to start thinking about hope. Things will and are getting better. It's important for us to have hope in our lives. important for us to look positively into our future. My wife is saying, you got to wrap it up, Lamont. That's why I'm talking fast. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs says this: hope is the belief that together we can make the world better. Hope is optimism with a plan. And that's what I also believe, that Dr. King and many others left us a plan. You know, what I call a blueprint. He left us a path. They left us a path that is still so relevant today. He spoke these words that the challenges that weigh us down today should never dissuade us from imagining a better, a more just, and a more love-filled future. So who is shaping the next strategies for social change, for social justice? Who is training that young activist? Who is sharing the handbook for those who want to experiment with activism and search out their own vocation in the world? And who is talking about the strategies that draws the lessons from the past movements for change? Who are we helping or coaching to pick up the mantle? See, I've been dealing with this. Remember, I told you you're in my head tonight. I've been dealing with that on a personal level. How am I passing the knowledge to other people? How am I supporting the next generation? For the first time ever in human history, there are now 5 generations working together in the same workplace. In part, this is due to the aging workforce and increasing numbers of workers retiring at an old age. But even in where I work, people, yes, people are living longer, but many people still need to work to live. But how are we passing down history, knowledge, experience to keep the hope living for the next generation? Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? I love this country. But like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I'm not trying to tear the country down. He said, but I am working to insist that it live up to its ideals. I think someone said it from the Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. So we certainly have a reason to pause and celebrate our achievements and how far we have come as a society and as a nation. Much progress has been made. The policies and laws that have been changed have been so important to the triumphs. I mean, I'm a product of it. Because I often say, I don't believe this was supposed to happen. It's an interesting question. That a black man speaking at an institution, I don't know if this was the intent 100 years ago. So things have changed and things have gotten better. And we live in an increasingly diverse society. But I leave you with this. But we must recognize that addressing political issues involving race, class, gender, identity, sexuality, and abilities are no longer optional. They are essential to the forming of that more perfect union. 2 things. Kentika Rostindi said, beginnings are always the hardest, but we've come this far in life, which proves that despite all the challenges, the soldier inside of us can trample over any obstacles. And so I have a question. Is this your time to be brave? Martin Luther King was human. He was flawed. And no doubt I can imagine that he was scared at times. His humanity never overcame his commitment to a higher purpose. So in church, you have a topic. So if I had to choose a topic tonight, I would say my topic is, don't let your hope be in danger. Thank you very much.
Before we conclude, we want to thank the MLK committee for this untiring work to make this event possible each year. We are grateful for your commitment. Beyond being a champion of human rights and a leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was extraordinarily eloquent with words. His speeches, interviews, and texts are a well of deep and meaningful quotes that can serve to motivate and inspire us all.
And so MLK quotes are set to inspire, encourage, and move us deeply. His words will undoubtedly guide us to a righteous path and be compelled towards committed action. And so today, we leave you with this quote. If you can't fly, can you finish it? You what? Then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, you crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Good night, and thank you so much for coming. If we could please have the speaker and his wife and also the awardees on stage, we would like to remember this moment. We'll take some pictures. She's here, Lanaya. If you may, I know this is not the norm, but we heard that Lanaya is here from Colby High School. Where is she? Where are you, Lanaya? Right there. Okay. If you could just give her a chance to read her speech for you, we would love to hear her.
My name is Lanaya Aquino. I go to Colby Cathedral High School. I'm a junior. I graduate next year. I wrote the winning essay for the Martin Luther King thing. I'm going to start now. So many years ago, Martin Luther King delivered America his speech preaching hope, equality, and dreams. He fought for social justice and racial equality. His goal was to change the way we negatively view ourselves and others, to respect and love all regardless of our differences in race, sexuality, religion, social class, and gender. Because at the end of the day, we are all one. We are all human, and we are all of this earth. We have now more than ever, as a society and as a union and as a country, have all opened our eyes to see the unfairness and the ways of the world, and the way we treat and view each other based off biased judgment. And we, as the years pass by, have improved and made many changes to eliminate social injustices from our future. Many achievements and improvements have been made politically, socially, and mentally in America. These changes have helped us all to lead better lives, and it's thanks to the voice and the influence of the people, the protesters, and those who fight and have fought for social justice. Those who have shared the same dream as Martin Luther King and carry on his legacy and work towards his dream every day. There are many different new ways to make changes that weren't around once before, and they are being utilized to make our homes better and safer places to be. Hope for the future has changed, and we have opened doors that were not open before, allowing for change to grow, making it possible for us all to succeed equally. We have achieved many great things, but fulfilling Martin Luther King's dream was the greatest of all. And of course, we are only human, and in some corners of the world, problems still exist. But to acknowledge and bring awareness to them is the first step towards a better dream, towards a better future, and towards a better tomorrow, so that someday there will be no question that a change has been made. Martin Luther's I Have a Dream speech contained many vital pieces in creating a better world for us all. His dream and the dream of the people he spoke to, our dream today, started with a change. Our dream today started with him, and his dream and ours grew and changed, and it will keep growing and changing so long as we allow it to. Martin's dream was just a dream back then, but we have made it a reality. The world has changed so much, and the people are the reason. Americans will keep dreaming together for the future.
All right, congratulations, and I hope you consider the University of New Haven when it's time to apply for college. All right, have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I also want to thank the online audience for tuning in. Thank you so much.